Hello. Welcome to the It's Your Time show with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I am so excited that you're here for another episode of the It's Your Time show, where each week we bring you transformational stories from entrepreneurs and professionals around the world. People who are sharing their life-changing experiences to give you, the listener, proof of what's possible after adversity, as well as inspiring and motivating you to take control of your time and take action on your dreams. On this week's show, I am so delighted and honoured to be joined by the amazing Deenita Pattni. She is a multi-award winning international trainer, a mentor, a speaker, a TEDx speaker, a speaker coach, and a #1 best-selling author. She's the founder of Viamii Business Academy, a training academy that's designed to help business entrepreneurs and professionals discover how to be more visible, step into the limelight with confidence, and become the authority as a preferred expert of choice in their industry. Deenita today is going to talk about her sort of transition from the corporate world after almost 2 decades to starting her own business, proving what is possible for all of us. As a result of her training, her clients have managed to convert their LinkedIn connections into paying clients, earning more than 100,000 in additional revenue. And this is all using free LinkedIn accounts. So Deenita is going to share her story, as well as some top LinkedIn tips that we can use in 2022 and beyond. I am so excited to welcome you to the show. Deenita, thanks for being with us.
Oh my God. Listen, the delight and the honor is all mine because I've known you for a while and I'm just so excited. I always watch whatever you're doing and I love your show. So I'm really excited.
Love it. So, housekeeping, people, if you are watching us live, let us know in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, let us know that you're watching on the replay. If you've got any questions and we've got time to come to them, then we will. But if not, leave your questions in the comments and Deenita and I will be checking through them to come back. And finally, if you feel like this episode is adding value to your life, I have no doubt it will add value to your friends, your peers, your connections. So be sure to share it, because 2022 is going to be an amazing and very interesting year, as have the last 2 years of our life been. So I know that what's going to be shared today is going to be super valuable. So be sure to share it and hit that like button as well, because who doesn't like a like? So with all of that being said, let's get started. Deenita, I love to ask my audiences this same question because I really truly believe that it was the late Steve Jobs who said, we can only join up the dots when we look back. And I truly believe that it all starts in our childhood. So tell us, what was 4-year-old Deenita like?
Oh gosh, 4-year-old Deenita. Well, it's really weird, isn't it? Because I don't often remember my life that far back, other than from pictures and things like that. Whereas I know people who have really vivid memories of what their 4-year-old or 5-year-old self was like. What I do remember is at that point, I didn't have any siblings. I've got 2 siblings now, but at 4 years old, I was, if I remember, I was kind of I was the apple of everyone's eye in the family because I was the firstborn. So, and we lived in an extended family, as often most Indian families do, especially from way back then. I definitely look younger than I am. But I think all I remember from that is a particular, we used to live in just in the borders between Hammersmith and Kensington, and we used to live on a ground floor flat. And what I remember from that is just being around lots of family. And that's what that's one of the key kind of values that I've had, is this kind of community and family. And I think it's come from that, being surrounded. My dad, being like, just from pictures, I remember being taken to, Blackpool every year where we went to see the Christmas lights. But family was a big thing. It was, and even where we lived, the estate that we lived on, and it was a council estate as well. So the council estate that we lived on, there was just so much friendliness, and we loved the neighbor next door. My best friend lived on the top floor. So yeah, that's what I remember from being a 4-year-old, just being surrounded by family, lots of gatherings at our houses all the time. Birthdays were always big and celebrated in the house, with lots of food.
Amazing. I love it. And what did success mean to you as you were growing up? Did you start off like, for me, I think it just used to mean rose petal perfume that always turned into a pile of mold, but that was success. I don't know, wanted to make perfume out of rose petals. What has it been sort of as you have grown up throughout the years?
Yeah, it's been really interesting actually, because I always loved reading. I was, even at school, there used to be this thing where you read you read books that were in the curriculum that you had to read. And if you read through all of them really quickly, you then became what they called a free reader. So you could go to the library and choose whatever book you wanted. And I became a free reader before anybody else in the class. And so I was able to go in and just choose my own book. So I used to read loads. I used to love books. And I say used to because although I love reading now it's like Audible and things like that. But I used to read loads. So, for me, academic success was actually quite big. And again, from the background, my parents they're Indians from East Africa. So there was this whole thing about, doing well in school, in college, in university, and obviously getting a really good job. Or being a really good entrepreneur, because actually my dad had a real entrepreneurial spirit. He had both a job and a business. But I remember, like, I used to love reading. That was my big thing. And as I grew older, though, I wasn't very good at exams. So when I started to take exams and I started not to do well, that for me felt like failure. And it felt like I wasn't good enough and all of those things. So success for me was passing exams, and it was, getting an A or getting a B or getting an A, B or C, but never a D. So it was really interesting because my journey wasn't quite like that. It's that whole thing around how entrepreneurs have a plan, but that the road to success is never straight. Interestingly enough, my road to success, even as a child, even as a teenager, going to uni, it was never straight. When I got to university, even I had to defer for a year because I failed my A levels the first time. But one thing I do remember, Abby, is that I didn't stop trying. And that wasn't, something in my brain that was like, right, you got to be persistent, because I knew nothing about personal development in those days. It was just like, you just got to keep going. And that was just kind of innately built in me. But success for me was, at that time, as I was growing up, it was just about keeping going and finding your own way, even though I didn't know that at the time.
Oh my goodness. I love it, because this is exactly sort of parallel to my story in many ways. I didn't start university when everyone else did. I had to take a year out for medical reasons. And so as a result of those medical reasons, didn't get the A levels I was supposed to do. And I can say this to you, like, it's like we're having a conversation because we've known each other for so long. And I know that you'll indulge me in this one. I negotiated my way into university, Deenita. I literally was like, me coming to your university will be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I absolutely guarantee I will get a 2-1. And they were like, okay. They let the crazy lady in and I got the 2-1. Like, I did not sparklingly get the 2-1. I got the 2-1. And it's so funny in life, like, you manifest what you get. So it's like, be very, very specific. If you want to get it with ease and grace, you've got to say, I got it with ease and grace. Like, I got it the hard way. But it's funny how you say that, you find a way. And I think that's why we connect so well, because we have that personality. We understand, like, life is what it is, but it's not your choice to stop. like,
Yeah.
just keep going. Like, when you've been punched in the face, just keep going. So
Yeah.
that very neatly leads into my next question then. Can you sort of remember who have been key influences for you along your life journey, like teachers, parents, friends, maybe
Yeah.
people in the public eye?
So my very first kind of influencer, and I'm most inspired by, is definitely my dad. My dad is a massive big part of where I am today. So like I said, we have this entrepreneurial spirit in the background, and my dad was one. He always wanted to run his own business. So he used to, but as a head of the family, he was also the eldest sibling. So his role was to bring people over from East Africa, the rest of the family, my grandmother, everybody from East Africa. So for him, when he landed in the UK, it was right. I've got to just get a job, get a place to live, then bring everybody over. It was his responsibility, because my grandfather had passed away when he was quite young. So, where my dad really, really did, where I really saw my dad's willpower come through of this not giving up was when I was 16. My dad contracted a condition called Guillain-Barré disease, and it's where he was a BT engineer, so he used to like climb those big telephone poles and things like that, and then he used to come home in the evening. He used to go and do his he was a wholesaler in jewelry. But anyway, he contracted the disease and he lost the use of his hands and feet, so he was wheelchair bound. And I was 16. He was our bread earner. My mum did work, but he was the kind of main bread earner. And everything had to be frozen. The assets had to be frozen. Loans had to be frozen. And just even having enough money to get lunch from school, was a task. And many people who had got the same kind of condition around him had either, we later knew, had either passed away or they remained in a wheelchair, because that's what my dad had been told, that he would remain in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. But for him, that wasn't an option. For him, he knew he had to get back on his feet, mind the pun, but get back on his feet, because he had a family to raise, and he had young children. My two brothers are younger than me, and that was not his destiny. So he went through alternative therapies and medicines, Ayurvedic and all that kind of stuff, and within 18 months he took his first step again. And that for me was definitely, every time, even today, when I think, gosh, you know what, should I just go and do this, or should I just give up with this, or time is hard, I just remember my dad. And he's still around with us, but I just remember what he went through and how he came out of it, because for him, being fed by my mum and not being able to do anything, he would even to go up the stairs, he didn't want help. He wanted to use his elbows to try and get up the stairs. So for me, biggest inspiration and biggest influencer about not giving up was my dad.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. What a man, and what a visual lesson and life sort of chapter to go through, to grow through. And so funny, like how these things then shape us and become who we are. And that old adage, they say, it's what you go through and what you grow through is what shapes you and who you become today. And at the time it's the worst thing in the world, but it becomes rock bottom, almost, however you want to describe it, becomes that solid foundation that we build our lives and our careers on then, doesn't it? So
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And somebody, I heard someone say, and I can't remember who said it, but I've heard it in a story somewhere, where when you are at rock bottom, when you fall to the ground, it's because there's something there that you needed to find, and it's that lifts you back up. So yeah.
Oh my goodness, I've heard many a quote, but I've never heard that one before. So you were knocked to your knees to find something on the ground, basically. That is an incredible reframe, and one that I'm sure many people will benefit from whenever they are tuning in to listen to this episode, because we're recording this sort of end of 2021 into 2022, and goodness me, if we've not all been knocked to the ground in some ways, probably repeatedly over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, it has been definitely a challenging time, hasn't it?
It sure has. So let's sort of move into your career and working life then, and the catalyst for changing, because we said at the outset that you had worked in sort of recruitment for over 2 decades, and then you've moved into running your own business. So rather than me ask really restrictive questions here, why don't you just sort of tell us a little bit about the journey, the transition from one to the other?
Yeah, absolutely. So funny enough, when I left university, what I did at university was media. Oh my gosh, sorry, that was supposed to. It was turned off. Sorry. So sorry about that. That's just messages disturbing us, even though I put it on silent ages ago. So when I first started, when I first left university, and I did social media media and communications in university, I wanted to be a journalist. So that was my dream, to be a journalist, go out there. I used to, even as a teenager, I used to write, I used to watch those really cheesy movies and want to write the screenplay for it. So that whole writing and reading was really, really massive for me. Anyway, didn't do very well as a journalist. I lived in Canada, worked for a magazine, did some broadcast. I did a broadcast diploma out there, did a bit of cable TV, but couldn't quite find the entry into what I wanted to do. So having migrated to Canada to find my dream career, I then came back to the UK because I really did miss being a London girl as well. I missed the hustle and bustle of London and the speed and pace. So landed my first job in recruitment, and I'm telling you, Abby, like, recruitment, I did not know at the time was all about selling. Selling for me was that double glazed window person coming, knocking on your door and trying to sell you what you already had. So for me, selling was a dirty word. But I got the job, and I was like, right, and lots of other people were telling me, you'd be really good at this. It's all about people, etc. But yeah, when I found out it was about selling, I honestly used to dread going into work for the first 3 months. And I was ready to quit, because I was like, oh my God, what happened to the caring about people and people's career and finding them a job and caring about the businesses? Where did that bit go? I hated cold calling. And one of my first kind of, again, we talk about people who have influenced you in your life. So one of the first people within my career that influenced me was a trainer within the company I worked for. And he got me to see differently what recruitment was about and what selling was about. So he got me to reframe the word selling. And as a result, I stayed on past my probation period and continued to work in that industry. And then although although I got better at sales, I still had that whole, oh God, I've just been rejected thing going on. And, if somebody put the phone down on me or didn't want to take my services, I took it personally. And then it was my uncle who then took me to a personal development event. And so I'd never, ever even heard of personal development. I didn't know what it was. I turned up at this, this massive big hotel room where people were dancing on stage. It was all happy clappy. But I kind of got into the spirit of things and started to do it myself. But that is what then changed a lot of things in my career, because as a result of that, I then went on to become an NLP practitioner, master practitioner and trainer. And that changed and catapulted my results in recruitment. I became the top biller, whichever company I worked for. I wasn't afraid to leave a company when I'd outgrown it. Sometimes I left without even a job to go to. So my confidence completely turned around. And so as my career continued, I got big teams to manage. I then brought training in-house. So training and mentoring seemed to be a little, part of what I wanted to do. And when I did my NLP training, I knew that I wanted to help coach and mentor others. But I didn't at that time know that what what it would look like as a business, because I was still loving the fact that I was working for somebody. I had an income coming in every month. So that safety and security was brilliant. It was like, I get to have a disposable income. I get to do all the things I love doing whilst also doing the job that I want to do. But every job that I left, it was really interesting. And I think it was almost like a wall being built, because every time I left a job, I thought, gosh, like I gave my heart and soul to that company. And although I've outgrown it because they haven't appreciated me, or they haven't valued me, or they haven't given me what I needed, or whatever it was. But the truth is I was working for somebody and somebody else's goals. And I was giving everything to them with, if you think about safety and security, there's no real safety and security in a job anyway. Now, that's not to say don't have a job, because I loved what I did. But, if I was in it for safety and security, nothing says that I'm not going to lose that job. So after the last recruitment role that I had, which was the best one that I had, and I still love, I'm still in touch with my boss from there, or my ex-boss, and we've become really good friends. Another influence in my life, because when he came along, a gentleman called Mike Berry, when he came along, he absolutely saw in me what I didn't see in myself, promoted me, really valued me as a friend as well. So he's been a massive, big influencer in my life. But when that company closed down, it was a week before my 40th. And I had, the day that I'd gone in and found out that the company had actually been put into administration, I had my resignation letter in my hand. And I went in and found out that the company had been put into administration overnight, and that, we wouldn't get the salary and we wouldn't get our commission. And it was a kind of now or never moment, because I was like, well, because I had lots of people headhunting me because they knew me in the industry. I've been in recruitment for 17 years by this point, so or 15 years or whatever. So they knew me. So I was headhunted, and I was always being pulled by lots of big salaries saying, come and work for us. But I knew that if I didn't do it now, I would never do it. So that's when I started. This was back in 2012. And that's kind of when I started the business, because I knew that that's actually what I wanted to do. I think that what scared me, Abby, was because I'd seen my dad go through what he'd gone through when I was 16. I felt that the security thing was the thing I needed to hang on to.
Yeah, that is so, so interesting. I just have to sort of speak about an aside that maybe some of the audience might resonate with. Some might just go off and do an internet search around it. But 2012 was a big year of change. Like 2020 is kind of on the global scale, but 2012 is a year I speak to lots of people. It was the year that I had my wake-up call. It was the year one of our other guests, Paul, he had sort of his business challenges, and it was this, so
oh wow,
you start to notice that 2012, and this is the thing, like the universe kind of is giving us the wake-ups. It's up to us whether we take the step or not. So some people will sort of be in 2012 going, 2020 saying, like, I want to go back to how life was before then. And others will be saying, well, I've got a new year. What can I do next? So it's so interesting that you pretty much in this 2012 then were at a crossroads where you could have gone on to another job, which will be stable and secure, but the job that you were in you thought was stable and secure, and overnight it's not. Or gone off on your own. So what was that final kind of, right, I'm going to do this, I'm just doing it, okay, I'm doing it, oh my goodness, I'm doing it. what
I think it was just that self-reflection as well. It was just that this is what you want to do, so what are you scared of? And by this point I'd been in personal development for 2004 to 2012, 8 years. And I thought to myself, gosh, so what I was doing in personal development was I was helping, oh my God, it's just because it's on my phone. So it's my brother calling, but I'm going to call him later. So it was that self-reflection of, gosh, you know, I've been in personal development for 8 years. I've been helping other entrepreneurs build their businesses. So that was what my job was. As I was a public speaking coach, and I was working with my mentor and helping his clients. And I was helping them build their businesses. I was helping them leave employed roles and build a business. Yet I wasn't doing it myself. So part of me was like, well, first of all, am I being like, is there a lack of integrity here? Because I'm coaching them to build their own business, but I haven't done it myself. I'm still in an employed role. And the other part was, you know, looking at my all so many little different things, like my dad coming, you know, remembering my dad, that even after his traumatic experience, he still came through. He still built 2 or 3 businesses, even though they didn't end up being successful businesses. He still went and continued to do it. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I can go out and get a job, can't I? And that was kind of the thing. It was like, what's the worst case scenario? But I think it was also because it was my 40th, and I just thought, well, they talk about life begins at 40. If seriously, if I didn't do it then I knew that I wouldn't do it. So it was kind of like, right, just, you know, you've got an opportunity, like you said, starting a business from home. And what I did was I initially started a recruitment business, because I had clients phoning me up saying, listen, I know that, you know, the company was called Exchange Team. I know Exchange Team have closed down, but we still need your help. Can you work with us? And there were some of the companies were companies like L'Oreal, who were happy to give me, lone person that had no infrastructure behind me, to keep me on as one of their preferred suppliers. So I thought, well, this is great. Like, you know, if I can, I was earning, you know, anywhere between 10 to 20K per placement when I worked for somebody else. And I was getting anywhere between 10 and 30% commission for it. Whereas if I was be able to do a 10 to 20K placement, even if it was just one a month, then that would all be mine. So there were loads of little voices that were just saying, all right, you know. And I went for interviews as well, Abby, but there was just something, it was like a gut feeling.
I absolutely love this. There is so much gold in everything you're saying. And I hope that people who are listening to it are getting it, because people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you, like, what is the key to success? And it's like, there is no one key. There's a number of steps. And Deenita's shared some incredible steps. Like, she observed the role model of her father, like, do not give up. She then, you know, met with and connected with a huge number of people throughout her career and stayed connected to them. She then, you know, went and did personal development. But that started with reading books. And I think that there is such a huge thing with reading books. I truly believe books change lives. And so all of what you're saying is just take a step, take a step, take a step. The question is, like, how do I do it? What do I do? There is no roadmap. Like, what Deenita is saying here is, one day she was sort of pretty much, you know, without a job, without any warning. And the next day she was able to build a business and continue on with those clients. Now, some people might look at that and be like, you're so lucky. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that luck comes to the people who stay in the game. Luck comes to the people who make something of a situation. Now, there's no good or bad, there's just a situation. So I'm absolutely loving this, because this content is like, if there were things, so let's just do, like, what would be 5 things that you would say to somebody that if they are maybe in a job, they feel stuck, like 2021 has hit them really hard and they don't know what to do first. So they're in the new year, they're not feeling like new year, new me, they're feeling a bit of anxiety. What would like be your top 5 things? And maybe starting with, like, perhaps they've got no budget.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, the first piece of advice would be work on yourself. And I think that's really important. Working, you know, having had that 8 years of personal development beforehand, although I still was well, in my mind, I still waited until something happened to take the step. But the thing that really did, you know, the one element that I did have at my disposal was the fact that I'd worked on myself. I'd worked on my mindset. I'd worked on my perspective. I'd worked on the language that I tell myself, all of those things, because, you know, we all have a little devil voice in our head that wants us to stay where we are. Or we have, you know, our friends and family. And luckily for me, I wasn't surrounded by that. But I know many people are, that they're, you know, they want them to stay where they are because they're afraid for the individual, but the individual is happy to take that risk. So work on yourself, work on what you really want, but, you know, work on your own mindset and perspective. So that's my very first piece of advice, that especially if you're in that place where you're employed and you're thinking of, you know, doing something that you're more passionate about, then definitely, you know, work on yourself first. The second thing is, look, it happened to me in that, you know, I lost the job. And so therefore I was at a point where I had to start the job with, you know, no budget or limited budget. I had some savings, etc. So, and this isn't about being cautious, but I would never advise somebody if they had, you know, completely nothing in the bank, you know, they were or in overdraft every month, to then just leave and do a job. To leave and then set up their business if they literally had no way of bringing food on the table. That's not the advice that I would give. So if you are in that situation where you need the money from the job to begin with, to get you started, then think about how you can create a side hustle first. So think about what you're passionate about and start to do it on the side. If I could look back and change anything, the one thing that I would change was when I lived with my parents, I should have started the business then because I had a bit more security. But that's because of my need for security, and that's okay. It's one of the, you know, significant human needs, or one of the 6 human needs. But, you know, if you really are at a point where you know that, you know, maybe you've got a family and you've got a mortgage. I was lucky. I had a mortgage, but I've got no dependents. I didn't have to look after anyone other than myself. So therefore, me looking after myself financially, emotionally, all of those things, I could do it. I was able to have the drive to do that. But, you know, if you do worry about the fact that you've got kids in school and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, try a side hustle. Do it. Start it off part-time, and then, you know, leave when you have enough. You know, I've heard somebody say, and it's actually our very good friend Beju Solanki. He's always said that when you decide to leave to embark on your entrepreneurial journey, a good and sensible way to do it is to ensure that you have 6 months wages, if you like, to cover you for 6 months, so that, you know, you don't feel the pressure of, you know, of not being able to pay the mortgage at the end of the month and not having a roof over your head. So as much as, you know, we talk about taking risks, because that's what entrepreneurs are built with, you know, there's also being sensible as well. And I think you just got to find that balance, because you'll hear a lot of like, oh yeah, you know, rags to riches story. And I was in the street and then suddenly I became a millionaire 2 days later. Life doesn't work that way. So that's my second bit. Like, be sensible. Look at what you've got. Look at the assets. And if you can do it part-time, then start it off part-time. You don't have to leave a job to prove that you are an entrepreneur. Advice number 3 is the biggest thing that I can tell you from my own experience. And that is let go of perfection. Like, I had the perfection disease. Sometimes it still creeps up, I would say, even today. And then I have to remind myself that it's not about perfection, it's about passion. And perfection leads to procrastination. There's a lot of P's there, but yeah, that's what it does. It's that whole paralysis by analysis and all of those kind of things. But that need to be perfect, you've got to let go of that, because you know, like I said, the road to success isn't a straight road. There's going to be challenges. So, you know, just let go of having to be perfect. You don't have to have all the ducks in a row, because, you know, one of the ducks might swim in a different direction. So you can't keep a row of ducks always swimming in the same direction either. So why do you think it's any different in business? So, you know, just let go of perfection. Things will happen and that's okay. But be you, just let go of that. Be passionate and people will see that. So that's advice number 3, I think I got.
Amazing. These are top tips. So we've got no budget. Then perhaps maybe number 4 is books.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so that's actually a really good point. Not just books, but people, the people, like, look at influencers around you, learn from people who are better than you, and hang out with people who are better than you. You know, that's one of the things, that was one of the massive things I learned about, you know, the people I surround myself with, not just, you know, peers like us, you know, the 2 of us, and we learn from each other and we laugh and we share, but also people who play a bigger game than you. Don't feel inferior. Don't feel like you are, you know, I belong to a number of masterminds, that, you know, where people are playing a bigger game than me, but I'm there and I'm consuming and I'm listening and I'm constantly within that kind of environment. So your environment is massive, and that includes books, that includes, you know, the people who've written those books. Go and see them. You and I met in a seminar, Abby, you know, and we were both still amazingly enthralled by all the speakers, because that's what we were there for, to also listen to, you know, what advice other people are giving and then seeing what fits for you.
Amazing. So
yes,
maybe then number 5 is really like get into events, either online or in person, whatever you can, because that proximity elevates your thinking. You are the product of the people you spend the most time with, and if one of them is yourself,
yeah,
then the voices in your head are creating the reality. And if you don't put a new tune in there, how are you going to be able to see and think about things differently? I love that.
And that also fits in with the fact that don't stop learning, because, like, you know, a lot of people think that, oh yeah, I've done all of this personal development, I'll just stop. No, don't. You got to keep going. You know, I have a sales coach, a marketing coach, a speaker coach, a business coach.
Incredible.
And part of that is a mindset coach. So I work with, you know, different coaches. So keep learning, keep working on yourself. So yeah, definitely go to events, go to seminars, and just indulge, because the market, as we know, look at where we are right now. Look at the last 2 years. Like you said, we would never ever have thought of this happening in our lifetime, but it did, and it knocked everyone for 6. But market is now evolving more and more and more, and, you know, we're in a world where everything is moving at such a fast pace, so you've got to keep up with it.
Totally. I cannot believe that we're almost coming to the end of our time together. This conversation has, you know, it's been incredible, and I really can't wait to hear people's thoughts and takeaways from it and what they're going to do in the new year. So where are you right now? What does life look like right now? And what would you say is your purpose in your business and in your life?
So let's start with that last part, is in terms of my purpose. So my purpose is really to, and I know people will say this, but I just want to kind of start off with this and then explain it a little bit further. So I definitely want to have an impact on other individuals. And what I mean by that, because, you know, a lot of people say, oh my God, I want to have an impact in the world. For me, it's about encouraging individuals to be more visible and shine that light on them, because that's one thing that I was always afraid to do. You know, I'm really confident now. You met me when I was really confident, and you know, I'm visible. I'm all over social media. I'm always about, but I was never like that. And this sits with that whole need for perfection, because I didn't think I was good enough to do it. So I want to encourage individuals out there that they are worthy. Doesn't matter which part of the journey they're in, that they need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be visible, so that people can see their amazingness, and as a result of that, you end up having more of an impact on you know, whoever you want to have an impact on, whether you're an employee or a business owner. So, you know, one of the things when I worked in recruitment was I wanted to help. I really, really wanted to be visible in front of my clients because I wanted them to have the best staff, and I wanted the candidates I worked with to have the best jobs. So for me, it was all about visibility and having conversations and communicating and having an impact that way. I wasn't ever focused on the commission I was going to earn. It was more about is this a right match? And so for people, and that's why I do what I do with the LinkedIn, is that it's all about letting people shine, have that spotlight on them because they are amazing, and not be afraid to have that impact through visibility.
Awesome. So just want to like hone in on, while we've got you here, because you are the LinkedIn queen. If someone is not on LinkedIn, or if someone is not really using LinkedIn, we're on the cusp of a new year, what would your number one thing be for them?
Do not wait any longer. It has been an explosive platform for the last 18 months. It has been longer than that, but just in terms of, throughout the pandemic. But it is going to be even more explosive in 2022. And it is so different from many other platforms in that it is all about building relationships and being visible and, growing your personal brand. The later you wait to get onto these things, the harder it's going to get, because there'll be other people, your competition, people who might not even be as good as you, who are taking that limelight and then serving customers not as great as you could serve your customers or your clients. So don't wait any longer. My biggest thing for, especially the end of 2021, and it's been my biggest frustration for 2021 actually, but now I'm telling people as we go into 2022, stop thinking and start doing. Like, get on the platform, learn about it, learn how to use it properly, but get on it. It's going to be an amazing, amazing game changer, especially if you don't have a budget as well, because that's a great thing about LinkedIn. You can create business and, revenue opportunities without having to spend thousands and thousands on marketing. So yeah, stop thinking, start doing.
Amazing. And how important would you say it is to really think about your photograph on there, like your profile picture?
Yeah, really important. I still see a lot of people where the photograph is, a full body photograph where they're away from that circle. And because it's a social networking site, if you think about it, they always say a photograph says 1,000 words, etc. When you are looking at the camera, so you're in that circle, 60% of that circle should be your face. You should be smiling at the camera. You don't have to be suited or booted. You can just be in your normal attire that you would normally be comfortable in, other than pajamas, obviously, not that comfortable. But in terms of your profession, but people connect. The eyes are the window to your soul, all of that kind of stuff. Your smile, all of those things like draws people in. So really important. And the background cover image is just as important.
Amazing. Deenita, we could talk for hours about sort of personal development, your journey. I feel like we've only just skirted over the top of it. We could also talk for hours about LinkedIn, because like what you don't know about LinkedIn isn't worth knowing. But for the benefit of this episode, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now?
Really interesting question, actually, because I did do I wrote a chapter in a book which was all about writing to my younger self, and what I did tell her was that that life would be tough, and that's okay, because it would make me stronger. So if I was with my younger self now, because I don't have any regrets. I think everything that's happened to us in life has shaped us, like you said. So what I would simply say is, look, keep going. You have an amazing life ahead of you. There is nothing that can stop you. There are no limits. You just got to keep going, and that's what I would tell my younger self.
Amazing. I love that. Where can we find out more about you to get involved? Like, where do you hang out most of the time?
So obviously LinkedIn. So you can find me, Deenita Pattni, on LinkedIn. You can link in with me there. I have a group on Facebook as well called the LinkedIn Lab, but most places where I am is LinkedIn. So just connect with me there, and let me know that you've been on Abby's show as well. So let me know that you've been in the It's Your Time show.
Amazing. And as with all episodes, all of the links will be left below. So you will be able to check the show notes out and connect in with the amazing Deenita. So thank you so, so much for your inspiring story, your top tips, and really, I feel like giving us pep talk and possibility and optimism for a new year. Who knows what is going to come our way, but with the mentality that you've shared with us, we will find a way. And interestingly enough, that's also my quote too. So like I said, we are very, very similar humans. So
thank you for having me. It's been awesome. I always value everything that you do and say. The feeling is mutual. I'm very honored to be here. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you for joining us. If you were watching this live or if you were catching up on the replay, let us know in the comments what your top takeaways were from it and any questions that you have. And if you were listening on the podcast, also you can reach out. We so look forward to seeing you again next week. We have got a new schedule of people coming in for the new year, so we can't wait to be with you. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.